Aye. Hey. We already got people in the chat. Hello, Goodnight Spoon. Hello, Tommy. And it is Showtime. Super serial Showtime, as it is. Goodnight Spoon is asking, what is this show about? Well, welcome to our Monday show where we talk about all things serials, which is like movies, shows, comics, novels, whatever's going on at the time that we feel like talking about. A lot of it's just anime. I say just anime. I really like it. Hey, Fizchozo. If at any point in time you like the show or not, I don't care. Go and share it out with somebody else anyway. Get more people in the chat. And if you really enjoy the show, you can consider giving a donation to streamlabs.com/vomitoriumlive to pay my water bill. Because people didn't tell me it was getting shut off, and I already used all the bill money. So, yeah. Anyway, as always, I'm your host of Metal, and joining me is my co-host, Marsupial Gamer. How you doing today?
Pretty good. I'm in a similar situation, except instead of water, it's I need to pay the continuous glucose monitor bill.
Yeah.
I had a good, fun time today wrestling with our diabetes supplier, who apparently may or may not work with my new insurance. Like, they didn't seem to know for sure. It's taken them a week to even find the right company. What? I tried to tell you what the company name was, but and then today they finally got it. I spoke to someone who is clearly not in India, and they actually got the name of the company right, but then they didn't know, wait, I don't know if we work with this company or not. So, fun.
Yeah. That's always the worst thing. It's like, oh, English speaker, would get us to a call. And like, yes, India is an English-speaking country. Doesn't mean we can always understand what each other are saying.
Exactly. I mean, especially when, my insurance, there's multiple iterations. There's a Medicare version and there's a private healthcare version, which is the one I've got, and then apparently like 5 other versions with a similar name, but crazy. Hate to bring up that bummer of a topic, but like that's been my day.
Yeah, we've both had a pretty bum day. Let's try to cheer it up with the topics on the show. And I think we should probably start off. Did you do your homework and watch Unfrosted?
Oh, yes, I did.
Okay.
I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Oh, yes, I watched the whole thing from beginning to end. I also watched and paid attention to, I rewatched the last episode of Delicious in Dungeon and then watched the new one, which I have some funny things to say about, but we'll get to that.
Yes, we will. But we'll start with Unfrosted. I guess to Prime, in case other people have not seen it. It is a movie. I don't know if he did any directing, but I know it was mostly written by Jerry Seinfeld, who starred in it as well. He's at least an executive producer. And it is 100% just the type of humor you're used to seeing from Jerry Seinfeld. And it is the not-so-true story about the invention of the Pop-Tart in a very, idiocracy kind of mockumentary type of way. It is...
It's
I don't know if I could call it a funny movie, but it's
appropriate that Goodnight Spoon said, I haven't had cereal in years. Have you just been eating Pop-Tarts?
Very, very appropriate. It was definitely a very humorous movie, and
it wasn't laugh out loud.
No, that was the thing. It's like, I don't know if I could call this movie funny, but I can call it humorous. I think, even though the word funny still applies, I just feel more comfortable calling it humorous.
It was almost like a series of vignettes.
Yeah,
that kind of tied together loosely into a story.
Mm-hmm. And basically, the framing of it is that I can't remember his name. It's like Cabrera or something. But Seinfeld's character was sitting down at like a bar, like a sock hop type situation, but they were treating it like it was an actual bar, like they were serving hard food in a way, because the kid next to him orders Pop-Tarts, but he's had a bad day, so just leave the box on the table, like leaving the bottle or the pitcher for the person you're serving at a bar.
Yeah.
And he starts trying to tell this little kid a story to cheer him up, and it was just this long story about how Pop-Tarts came to be, and absolutely none of it was true, except apparently the very last part about Marjorie Post opening up Mar-Lago was the only thing in the story that says an actual fact on the screen when it says that. And I'm still not even sure if that's true. I'm going to say it's not, but the movie said it was an actual fact. So I don't know anything about the history of Post. I'm just going to say it's not true unless told otherwise. But
Did
nothing
it say
else
she opened it up to women, or
I don't even remember exactly. It just said that Marjorie Post was the one who opened up Mar-a-Lago, which I don't know the history of Mar-a-Lago or Post cereal. I'm just going to assume it's as false as literally everything else in there, unless you're looking it up right now.
apparently it's true.
Okay.
Mar-a-Lago was built for the businesswoman and socialite Marjorie Meriwether Post.
Okay.
Between 1924 and 1927. Was this supposed to take place? Was that the
Yes.
decade or the era?
Oh, well, apparently that would have been opened before this, because this movie, I think, took place in the 60s. Because they kept
It seemed like
the 60s. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It was the 60s, yeah. Yeah, she built it back in 1927, so.
Yeah. So that would have happened before it even occurred, but
Yeah.
with how rich they were supposed to be, that's not to say that she didn't already have it open. She just went on to doing that instead of competing against Kellogg or whatever.
Yeah. It's funny that those are actual people's names. They seem
You
like
just never register that these companies
fake
are named
names.
after the people that opened them up.
yeah, Kellogg's and Post.
Yeah. Post makes the most
What-
sense, right? Just because a lot of
Yeah.
people's last names come from like their ancestors' jobs. So somebody who might have been a postman might have just been named Post at one point in time, and it just went down through the family. It's like my
So-
mom's side of the family is Dyer, which obviously means somewhere in that family history, there's somebody who dyed clothes and other materials as a profession. Yeah.
I'm going to look this up. Was there a General Mills?
I
That's my question.
don't. I don't think they talked about General Mills in there, but I would
Yeah.
assume maybe it was just named after the fact that you used a mill to grind like grains and stuff like that back in the day.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
The big mill.
They made fun of the Quaker Oats in there, though, with the actual Quaker showed up. See, Goodnight Spoon says, I heard it was the most unfunny comedy film in the last 10 years. I wouldn't disagree with that. Semantically, I wouldn't disagree. Because like I said, I wouldn't call the movie funny. I enjoyed it. I actually thought it was a good
entertaining.
movie. I would probably watch it again, not right away. I might put several months of distance in between it, but I would not be opposed to watching the movie again. I enjoyed it. There were a couple scenes that I genuinely laughed at, but it was few and far between where I caught myself laughing. But it was very humorous. It's like watching Seinfeld. I enjoy watching Seinfeld. Even the first time around, I didn't catch myself laughing out loud at most of what happened in Seinfeld. It's just a very humorous show. That's how I felt about watching this whole movie.
Yeah.
And it may not be for everyone, but I liked it.
I thought it was entertaining. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say it was bad.
Yeah. It was competent.
There was a funny but very safe and somewhat muted what's the word parody of January 6th.
Yeah, there was. Even had the buffalo horns and everything.
Yes. Yeah, the mascots.
I actually
I'll
thought
tell you
that
where
was
I
funny.
laughed.
Yeah.
well, the funniest part to me was the funeral.
Yeah, yeah.
That I'm pretty
They
sure
started
I
like
laughed out
pouring
loud.
the cereal and the milk and stuff in
Yeah.
there, and yeah. I'm trying
And
to remember.
the casket starts floating up because
Mm-hmm.
they filled the hole with cereal
Trying to
or
remember if I
with
can think of
milk.
like the specific things that made me laugh. I think
And the wife
Mhm.
kept going, what is going on? She's like, what is this?
Getting a proper cereal
Yeah.
industry funeral. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Which one? I think because I'm a child inside. When the guy exploded testing the Pop-Tart, I think that actually made me
Yeah.
laugh.
Yeah.
Trying to think if there was a couple
Yeah,
of
the
other
whole
ones.
thing about, and he's the one who had the funeral, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I know there was
They
a
were,
few parts that like I genuinely actually laughed at. I think the kind of like obviously very very bluntly casted, right? Like they casted it. They didn't try to make it subtle or anything. That there's like this forbidden love between the two people before it even happened. But the actual scene with them in the office that went wrong because of the mutant ravioli, I think right before the mutant ravioli, I laughed at that a little bit because it was just so stupidly awkward that I couldn't help but chuckle at it.
oh yeah, the Kellogg's guy and the post.
And post, yeah. I didn't hate Amy Schumer in this, which I thought was shocking because normally I can't stand her in anything that I've seen her in. I think she was a perfect casting for this awful character that was Marjorie Post.
And I didn't hate what's her name, his partner.
Oh, Melissa McCarthy.
Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah.
I
didn't
mean,
hate her either. There was a scene that I'm like, this is a typical Melissa McCarthy comedy scene where it was like the Mad Men came in and they were trying to make everything sexy, and then the guy just started like flirting back with her, like he wanted her with it. And it's like, if this wasn't in every single movie or thing she's ever been in, I might have found that scene funny because it was subversive. But almost every movie she's ever been in, there's a scene like that, and it doesn't seem subversive. It just seems like a typical scene for her. And it's like,
where a hot guy is flirting with her.
Yeah, with this like clearly not conventionally attractive person whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was funny when John Hamm comes in to do the pitch.
I think that actually was one of the other parts where I genuinely laughed. Is he's
I think
going
I
through
did
and
too,
trying to do like this adult, sexy pitch for a kid's treat.
Yeah. I was like, Mad Men. It was pretty funny. And the other guy was from the show too, right? I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a long time since I've watched Mad Men, like probably a decade, but I think they were both from it. Like, I think the whole thing was just like Seinfeld wanted to do a Mad Men bit and got the two people from it to go on there. There's a lot of it.
Who was that guy?
Talking about a
John
bunch of
Slattery.
Slattery, yeah. Talk about it felt like a bunch of vignettes. It felt like Jerry has not been working on anything but his stand-up comedy for a long time.
Yeah.
And kind of misses working on the show Seinfeld. And these are a bunch of bits that otherwise would have been in Seinfeld or a stand-up comedy, but he managed to string them together into a movie. That's what it feels like, because a lot of them you could just watch a scene on its own, and it would have been like an enjoyable vignette.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's stuff like that. As the admin come in to pitch the ad, and it's terrible. And
he's like, Pop-Tart's a good name.
And what was it? Oh, there was a scene where they the post people are testing their version for the kids, and like does he crank up the toaster, or does it just burn on its own? I can't remember. I think it just starts burning in the toaster. And
no, I don't think that was with the kids. There was a part where it was something else they put in the toaster caught on, like burnt to a crisp. Because I remember the kid thing, they thought for the post, because they thought the post thing was delicious in that scene. And there was the scene. It was the same scene where the kid got the his necklace caught in the rug doctor.
Thought that was at Kellogg's. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I remember there was one scene at Post where they were. She was like sort of grilling the kids, and then she goes, let's just try it. Why don't you try our thing? And they put it in the toaster and it burns. And then she does the Bill O'Reilly. Screw it, we're doing it raw. We're doing it raw.
Okay, yeah, no, I remember that one. That was the disc thing, right? Like the first time they did it. Where
Yeah.
It was like almost like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that one. Yeah. I think see, that was a different group of kids. It wasn't the two kids. I think that's why I was confusing, because there's these two
maybe it
kids
was
that are like important to the story. That one, it was just like a group of like test field kids or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's these two kids that are there like the whole time that Seinfeld's character just like finds in a dumpster. And it's like, oh no, we actually eat well at home. These are the type of things the man are trying to keep from us.
Yeah.
So they jump in the dumpster to try to find it. I thought that was pretty funny too.
Yeah.
But
the
those kids
general-
actually were really good characters. I thought I was gonna hate them at first,
Yeah.
but they kind of grew on me over the course of the movie.
Yeah, they were a little weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, the general gist of it was that Kellogg's was just dominating the entire industry, and and then Seinfeld finds out that Post is basically stole his prior research into a shelf stable pastry,
Yeah.
and they're on the verge of coming out with one that's going to essentially upend the entire cereal industry and take over. So
And then they go and steal it again.
They basically turn it into like a space race
Yeah.
parody.
And they get
where-
like all the craziest people to work on their thing, because like obviously you got to put a team together, and it's like none of these people should be involved in making food whatsoever. Like they got
they're like spokespeople.
yeah, or like Schwinn, right, from like the Schwinn bicycles or whatever was there, or Jack LaLanne, which I know that one was purely because if you ever watch Seinfeld or listen to Jerry's comedy, he's like obsessed with throwing Jack LaLanne into jokes. Like he talked about him all the time on the show and everything. So it's like, oh, we're working in an era where I can put an actor playing Jack LaLanne into the comedy itself.
Yeah, and it was James Marsden.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. Jack LaLanne.
Yeah, I think I would definitely recommend it. I don't know if it's for everyone, but if you liked the show Seinfeld, you would enjoy it. I think that's mostly what it comes down to. If you like that type of humor, you'll be missing like half of the humor, because obviously I don't think Larry David worked on this, and it doesn't feel like he did. But that's fine. You can get that humor from just watching what's that show that's funny? Curb Your Enthusiasm. You can just watch that instead if you want the Larry David half. But if you like any of the actual Jerry bits from Seinfeld, you will probably enjoy this movie, more or less.
Yeah.
It's not the funniest thing I've ever seen. I'd probably give it like a 6.5 out of 10. It was competent. It was above average. And there hasn't really been a good comedy. Talking about it's the most unfunny comedy film in the last 10 years. Like semantically,
There's a lot
I
more
don't
unfunny
want
than-
to. Yeah, because there's just bad comedy films, and I haven't watched a good one in a while.
Yeah. And it was definitely a cameo fest. It was just
Who can we? train
everyone in there is like, hey, that's that guy from that thing, and I remember that guy. Half of them were from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, like I
And,
like Snap,
yeah.
Crackle, and Pop. They were pretty funny for the short roles that they had.
Yeah. Jack McBrayer played Steve Schwinn, the guy who was on 30 Rock, and
Played Fix It Felix Jr. and Wreck-It Ralph.
yeah.
And he was
But, yeah.
also what was it? He was in something else recently. I'm trying to remember what it was that I watched. His role was pretty funny. He's funny in like everything he's in, even if the thing he's in kind of sucks, just because he plays like a general goofball. He's just really good at playing a goofball. God,
Oh, he's in Talladega Nights.
I love Talladega Nights.
Yeah. I don't know what else.
I don't know. It feels like he was on another sitcom recently, but I can't remember what it was.
The Middle?
That was
that
it. Yes. The Middle.
I never watched that.
That was just like a general, like lower class family comedy, right? Even in the name, I would probably relate it to something similar to Malcolm in the Middle, just not as funny. It had a good cast of people on there. It was just kind of, and it was still funny. Just, it wasn't this top of the charts type comedy, so a lot of people weren't watching it. And I don't even know if it's worth going back watching it. But if you caught it while it was live, it was funny enough.
Was he just like a recurring character?
Yeah, he wasn't like on every episode, but he would show up here and now again. I think that's the most recent thing I remember seeing him on, aside from this.
Yeah. Well, it's I guess it was a made for Netflix movie, right?
Yes, this was directly for Netflix.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because with the production quality and the fact that, like I said, it's 6.5, I probably would have went to a movie theater to watch this. Like, I probably would have went with my dad. We would have had a good time.
Yeah. It was pretty silly. It was kind of in the vein of, I mean, other than Seinfeld's stand-up, it was kind of like Scary Movie kind of. I don't know.
Yeah, I can put it in there. It's not as like haha funny as like watching Scary Movie, but it's definitely in the realm of satire. It is a satirical movie. Yeah. And
they wanted to, what did they want to call it? Not Pop-Tart, but
the Trat Pop.
Trat Pop.
Bit. And they used that was one of the best bits because it was Silly Putty. It was brand new. And it's like, if you try, you can get the ink on there. So obviously it would put the ink backwards because it would make a mirror image of whatever you put it on, and he read Pop-Tart instead, which I think is still stupid because all the letters would have been backwards, and that wouldn't matter for all of them. It was all caps except for the R. The R would clearly be backwards. So did you think they were intentionally using a Russian R for their logo?
Yeah.
For the guy who was doing the news seemed pretty stupid anyway, so.
Yeah, they skewered that guy who was the famous news anchor. No, come on. Who was
he was like a Walter Cronkite type.
Walter Cronkite, that's who it was. Yeah, oh my gosh, they totally skewered Walter Cronkite.
And that's the news.
Yeah, he was, he'd read the news and then they'd cut and he would just say random nonsense bullshit where he's talking about his wife leaving him and stuff. Oh my God. That I thought was pretty funny. Walter Cronkite being a total idiot.
It did a really good job of being a satirical comedy that was also a period piece because everything was kind of appropriate to what was going on at the time. It says, which Scary Movie, the Wayans Brothers or the stolen stuff that the studio took afterwards? Yeah, because I remember it was produced by the same guy who did Airplane and the Naked Gun and stuff, but they hired the Wayans Brothers to come on, which is 1 and 2, and then everything after that kind of just went back to being very Naked Gun. That's probably why it felt like the Naked Gun afterwards. I kind of like the first two better than the other ones, but I didn't hate 3 and 4. It's just the first two were better because it had its own identity, and then you kind of just threw the identity out after that.
Yeah.
They didn't even let them know that it was happening until after the trailer for it was already out, that they were making a number 3. The Wayans Brothers were like, what?
Really? Every one of them had I don't think you have names. Anna Faris, right? Mm-hmm. Or did they drop her after a while?
5 had Ashley Tisdale in her place. It was a different character. They kind of moved on. But yeah, the first 4 had Anna Faris.
Yeah. Whatever happened to her?
She had a sitcom called Moms for a while.
Oh. Oh yeah.
Yeah. It was all right.
But wasn't she? Is she married to? Who's the actress who's married to Chris Pratt?
I think she was for a while, and I think they got divorced.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. She was the one he was kind of shitting on, right?
I think so, yeah.
Well, or saying how much he appreciated his current wife. Anyway. Okay. I get it.
But yeah, that's,
Right, he's
that's
married
basically
to Catherine
our review.
Schwarzenegger now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was pretty much our review of Unfrosted. I would say if you have time, yeah, if you're just bored, you want something humorous, haven't watched a decent comedy in a while, and you have Netflix,
Yeah.
like if that criteria, watch it. It's not a waste of time.
Here's a ringing endorsement. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the worst thing on Netflix.
And then on top of that, if you really like Seinfeld, then definitely watch it. Right? That's my endorsement for everyone else. If you really like the show Seinfeld, then watch it. You'll probably think it's one of the best things you've seen in a while. But
yeah,
it's like there's two categories of people. If you don't fall in any of those categories, don't bother. You're just gonna end up complaining about it.
Watch Ricky Stenicki.
We did have a question
watched it.
involving media that I will entertain. It was from Goodnight Spoon. And he's like, any thoughts on Rooster Teeth closing and how it's your fault? I don't know how it's my fault, though.
You're welcome.
If we,
yes.
yeah, I guess you're welcome. I am glad it's closing after everything it went through. If it was still what it was a decade ago, then I'd be upset. But
Yeah.
if you believe my friends that I've had since elementary school, then technically everything is my fault. So that is true. But there's nothing directly my fault about Rooster Teeth clothing. I don't have that type of influence.
Were they not acquired by Crunchyroll?
Warner. They were originally acquired by Warner Brothers, who then acquired Crunchyroll, and they were basically operating as the same unit for a while, but it was different animation departments. So they had the Cartoon Network, Rooster Teeth, and Crunchyroll departments. They sold Crunchyroll off to Sony, which ended up merging Funimation and Crunchyroll together. Now Funimation's not around anymore, but Warner's been closing a lot of stuff, and they decided to close Rooster Teeth.
Yeah.
And apparently
it does
Ruby
seem a
might
little...
still be sticking around. It just might be moving to a different department in Warner Discovery. It might be rebooted or spin-off or rebranded. I think the actual show Ruby as it was is over. Just as a property, it's too big to get rid of altogether.
Is that my understanding? Is there's too many negative, double, triple negatives. Is that it wouldn't have happened if you, the audience, stopped not giving them money while simultaneously effing off for having different
opinions. Yeah.
If you
basically, it's trying to make it look
not get. If you'd given them money, basically.
Yeah. If people had just watched their stuff and gave them money, they wouldn't have closed, which is technically true. I mean, that is how businesses operate.
Right.
But also, if they gave the people something worth giving them money, they also would not have closed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's redundant.
Two-way street there, you know, right? Like, you have to actually give a product people want to give you money for.
Yeah. But, I mean, so they did they acquire Funimation, or did
No.
Warner Brothers acquire Funimation?
Warner Brothers sold Crunchyroll to Sony, and it became part of, like, Funimation and Crunchyroll basically became the same thing. Sony closed Funimation because it was bleeding money, had too much negative press, and or at least that's what I'm assuming. We don't know the real reason why it closed. We only have like PR stuff. And that was merged everything over into Crunchyroll. So Crunchyroll is their dubbing department now.
Oh, they just marked them in. Okay.
Anything that's remaining. So there's like a bunch of the Funimation staff is just part of Crunchyroll now, and obviously they bled off everything they didn't need from those departments.
And that was the company started by Chris. I don't want to. Not Braley. That's the other guy.
No.
Wasn't Funimation founded by the
Well,
guy who
Chris Sabat was one of the big
Sabat.
people, part of the start of it. Yeah.
Sabat? Yeah.
So the guy who voiced this character back here, I have a signed picture of him.
Who's that?
That's Shu Sakaki from History's Mightiest Disciple Kenichi. He did the English voice for that one. It's one of my favorite characters of his. And despite things that I don't like about the guy, especially within recent years and the whole like Vic scandal, I still think he's a very talented voice actor and enjoy his work. Just don't enjoy his company.
Yeah. Fitzgerald says Rooster Teeth wasn't even an anime studio. Was it an animation studio?
It was an animation studio, yes.
And a dubbing studio.
I don't think Rooster Teeth ever
or
did
was
dubs.
It? Or was it not?
Ever.
Oh, they didn't.
Yeah, no. They were just like, they mostly did 3D animation. They started off way back in the day as the people who made Red versus Blue, right? That is where they began. And then they started doing some live action stuff as well. And then their next big animation thing was RWBY, RWBY.
Yeah.
And they also made Achievement Hunter, so they did gaming things. Due to the Red versus Blue, they were always actually Achievement Hunter predates RWBY, but like they were always big into the gaming scene since it was like a I want to call it a machinima because a machinima had a name separate from the brand machinima, so it's always confusing. That machinima bluntly just meant anybody who made a story using in-game video assets that they recorded. But so they basically made a series where they went into Halo and they would dub over the characters doing things. So I guess they're a voice acting studio, and they would operate cameras and stuff inside the game engine. Whole series about the red team versus the blue team, the versus battle in Halo. And they even made some original, or not licensed. They did some original stuff too, but Camp sucks. But they did some licensed animated stuff, including they worked on some Transformer things for Hasbro, and they also worked on that CG Voltron show. They helped work on that. So they are a big animation
one on Netflix?
studio. They were one of the studios that worked on that.
I like that.
Yeah. So they were big, but they also spent a lot of money on things that weren't successful, and they were cut.
Yeah.
That's straight up. They just the successful things were not making up for their losses.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have a lost leader.
Yeah. Apparently they announced this like in March.
Yeah.
2 months ago.
They recently had like many of the founders come back to do like a gameplay stream thing, but almost all the founders had left from Rooster Teeth a long time ago.
Yeah. Typical. Hide everything behind a paywall and blame the audience for lack of growth.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, Joel was fired.
Well.
Joel's the most based out of all of them too, which is why he wasn't back. But he is technically a founder. He went in with them at the very beginning. But
well, yeah, it's sad when a company that could be riding the wave of the just a huge surge of interest in anime don't even try to do that. Like they just want to do Western animation. It's like you could have tried something different. Of course, then they probably thought, oh, that would be cultural appropriation or something, or they just thought, no, Japan is too right wing or something.
Yeah, and that was a big problem too. It's like since they didn't have something that could act as a loss leader to cover everything else, they started trying to put everything behind paywall. Yeah. Just everything. I think you for some of the spin-off stuff, you even had to have like either a Rooster Teeth membership or a Crunchyroll subscription back when Crunchyroll was still part of Warner to get access to some of that stuff.
Well, I mean, you can't get access to anything on Crunchyroll now without being
No.
paid.
No, but it's just talking about specifically the Rooster Teeth stuff as a company. There's stuff that previously was free to watch on YouTube that was supported by advertisements, which I also can't blame them because advertisements on YouTube aren't as good as they used to be. You had to start actually becoming a member to catch certain things. Of course, I've had beef with Rooster Teeth for a long time, ever since, which you could also blame Craig for this, that he sold Screw Attack to Funimation, or not Funimation, to Fullscreen, the other F1. He sold Screw Attack to Fullscreen, and then Fullscreen merged in with Rooster Teeth. So then Screw Attack became part of Rooster Teeth, and then Screw Attack got killed off, and all they kept was Death Battle.
Okay.
Yeah, so like I've already had a beef with them on their corporate level, because that's what happens. Any of these companies become corporate. Like the people who started them start to take a backseat to everything. You've got like accounting and HR calling the shots on everything. The stuff you actually love disappear. It just all goes away.
You know, and you hate to see it, but like when a company, like, I know they were, well, how big were they? I mean, they got acquired by Time Warner, and then Time Warner got acquired by Warner Brothers
got Discovery.
Brothers?
Discovery was what they merged with. So they got
Discovery.
acquired by Warner Brothers, and then it became Warner Discovery. And when that came in, they started cutting all kinds of stuff. Like Discovery's people came in and just started destroying departments that weren't making money.
But like, yeah, if you're a small company and you either get bought or you get bought, and then the company that bought you gets bought, it's like
you have no control over that.
Writing's on the wall.
Yeah,
you're gonna like it. They're gonna eventually absorb you into the blob, right? In some way. Which basically means shutting you down, and whoever's good will have a job, and whoever's not just won't. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Rooster Teeth was their own undoing, ultimately.
Yeah.
Now, some of the subscription stuff you could probably say came from above them, right? Those ideas. It's like accounting up at Warner Brothers. Like, this is what you need to do to try to make money back because you're not making money. Like, that I could see.
Yeah.
But everything down to, like, the content decisions and, like, stuff like that, that was on Rooster Teeth. And they did literally just shoot themselves in the foot.
And they didn't have a brand that was big enough to sustain or to
Ruby
convince.
was the only thing they had.
Yeah, but I mean, even just the name Rooster Teeth is just not well known. I'm just thinking in terms of like Marvel.
Yeah.
You know, Marvel getting bought by Disney. The publishing arm doesn't make any money, but they're not going to shut down Marvel because it's Marvel.
Yeah.
It's just too well known. It's like,
well,
I mean, they may start to outsource. I mean, more than they are.
I think that's why Ruby's the only thing that's going to stick around, because Ruby is a strong brand on its own. It's just not super strong. And they even there was a crossover event with the Justice League and Rooster Teeth, like an actual animated thing. So, like, Warner is going to sit on that IP forever. They just don't need Rooster Teeth anymore, because what else were they offering?
Yeah. Have you watched that at all?
No, I refuse to.
Okay.
Because I've
I just don't
been told about it from Buck.
know anything. Okay. I don't know anything about Ruby, but
yeah, when they ended up going over to Ruby's universe, from what he told me, basically Batman became superpowered because everybody has access to like the kind of mana energy thing that's there in Ruby. So they kind of turned him into Bat God, and everybody else got nerfed because they didn't have access to their normal superpowers. They only had access to that like mana energy thing that's in the Ruby universe. So they kind of like made Batman stronger than Superman in ways and stuff. And it was like really stupid, and Ruby's already kind of cringe anyway. So
yeah, all I hear about is like all this like shipping
oh, I'm already pissed
controversy
before Ruby got started, because Montium, who I really liked his stuff. He made Haloid, he made Dead Fantasy, which were these like 3D animated stuff on YouTube. Really fun, really sexy. Haloid was basically Master Chief versus Samus Aran in just like a fight before Death Battle was even like a thing. And at the very end, they took off the helmets. It turned out that version of Master Chief was also a girl, and they did like a sexy dancing thing. But then Dead Fantasy was like a series that was being built where it was like the Dead or Alive people versus the Final Fantasy women, which is a really unfair matchup if you played it straight, but didn't. You know, obviously made it interesting, and it's like a death battle, them fighting each other, and there's like this plot building up, and all of that had to have been thrown out the window because he had this original property he was wanting to do and got contracted by Rooster Teeth. And the way that he was selling Ruby from the very beginning was that it was going to be like Sucker Punch, but with like the Brothers Grimm. So it was going to be these like badass women in this like over-the-top fantasy epic with all these like Brother Grimm monsters and characters and stuff in there. And by the trailers even made it seem that way. By the time the thing actually launches, I don't know how much was him, how much was Rooster Teeth and everything. But it really felt like they were trying to capitalize on that kind of like shonen-esque high school style show. They kind of turned into Naruto, but they also made it like really girly because they were trying to have like something that appealed to both audiences. They wanted girls watching it too. They are one of the major demographics, 14-year-old girls. And it just became really cringe and stupid, right? It was like these people out of school that specializes in hunting down these monsters, but most of the story is them at the school. It was like a worse version of Soul Eater. I like Soul Eater. Soul Eater, it just does everything that Ruby's trying to do, but better. But without, like, the gay ships as well, which, depending on who you are, is either a positive or negative. I'm not going to judge you, but...
Is there a lot
I
of
wasn't
gayness
interested.
in Ruby?
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
Like, so why do they have... It's weird, because the first ones, there were 2 parts to this.
Good Night Spoon actually gives us a thing. Carrie was the one who did most of the story. That explains why it changed from what Monty was originally pitching.
I don't know who these people are. But part 2, the DVD or Blu-ray or whatever, cover has pretty normal looking Justice League.
Oh,
but part 1, they're all like kids.
For the most part, but yeah.
In their what?
They were, for the most part, they were in their outfits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I'm saying in the first one, it's portraying them as like teenagers.
Yeah, because I think in part 2 they did the other direction, and I think the Ruby people ended up going to like the DC world or something. I didn't actually watch this. I'm just trying to remember what I was told. So in part 1, I think they were all like made teenagers to go to the school. Like that just happened when they transferred over. Yeah.
And Ruby is
like I said,
about
I haven't watched this. I've just been told a lot of it from people, so I could be entirely wrong about most of what I've heard.
Did they turn...
I'm not interested.
Wait, who is this female Green Lantern?
The only female Green Lantern I could think of is the one from the...
Jessica Cruz?
Yeah, Jessica Cruz is the only one I could think of.
Except she's very white, so I don't know. Maybe not. It's hard to... Anyway, it looks very cringe. I saw it. I was watching... they're doing Crisis on Infinite Earths. I don't know if you like that storyline, but they are doing...
Only because it made New Earth by the result of it happening, and I like New Earth. So there's a lot of stupid things in Crisis, but it led to something better.
Yeah. By the way, I haven't watched this, but I don't see, at least not on the cover, the superheroes don't have guns.
Yeah.
This, but anyway, yeah, I saw this when I was on HBO Max the other day because I was watching the very new part 1 of Crisis on the Earths, which I guess I never really knew anything about. I never really followed DC. How long ago was this? This must have been.
This was like in the 80s, right? Was it like 86?
That
maybe,
long ago?
I think is when Crisis happened. Basically, it was the end of the Silver Age.
Okay.
Right. Which is why throughout like the entire 90s we had New Earth.
Is that why? Is that Barry Allen Flash, was he in that?
Think so. I don't know. It's been a long time since I read Crisis, and there's a
'Cause I know they got
lot
rid
to
of it.
read on Crisis. It was a big event.
Yeah.
The
Oh, yeah.
Anti-Monitor was the villain of it.
Uh-huh.
That was like the big thing. He was coming. There was like too many stories and too much canon, and the whole thing about the monitors is that Barry died in Crisis. Thank you, Fizz. There's like too many things, and the monitors are supposed to keep everything straight. And the Anti-Monitor comes in, and he just starts fucking everything up, and nobody can beat him. And it's like this huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of it, there's only one timeline left, one world, and that's New Earth. That's how everything wraps up.
Yeah, I guess it looks like it was all based on all this confusion because there was like Barry Allen teaming up with Jay Garrick and all this crap. And,
yeah, because it had like all the different universes, like multiple Superman and stuff, and
yeah. Why did they change? See, this is why we say, don't change the characters, because this is what happens. You end up with multiple different versions.
And the thing is, I like New Earth because New Earth at first was trying to attempt to just have a single timeline. I thought that was cool, and then they just started going off to different universes again. Like they brought back Earth 2 and all that shit. One of the weird things about Infinite Crisis, or Crisis of Infinite Earth, is that Power Girl actually survived it, right? Like the remake of the world and everything. So Power Girl from Earth, which is Supergirl from Earth 2, existed in the New Earth, but didn't have an original world anymore. So there was two Supergirls just in the same world. Like I always found that funny. She started going by a different name too. She goes by Karen Starr, because if there was two Karas, that would be kind of weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is she's the one that that guy on X always portrays as having really, really big boobs.
She has really big boobs.
Right? Does she?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was accurate or like humongous.
Yeah, no, they're huge.
Okay.
Like if she was a real person, giving her height and what I could estimate to be her torso circumference, I would probably guess that they're likely K or L cups on average. Yeah. So
did Wally West emerge from Crisis as the Flash?
No. I mean, Wally. The thing is, Wally West has already been the Flash. He's depends on which universe. He's either the
Flash at the end.
Oh, he was alive at the end. Yeah, because Wally West is related to Iris West, right? So he's been around in multiple world lines and stuff.
Yeah.
He started out as like an apprentice sidekick character to the Flash, and then he became the Flash afterwards.
Yeah. Well, I mean, according to, at least if they're following the story in this new movie, Iris dies too. So, but
it was also funny about Justice League during that time, right? So watching Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, the cartoons that were supposed to, they were done by a different group of people, but they were supposed to be done in the same world as like Bruce Timm's Batman and Superman series. It took place in New Earth, and they had Wally as the Flash, but they had to like basically give him a lot of Barry Allen-esque things because of that. And there was even a part in Unlimited where he went through his stuff, and you could see like Barry's suit and everything on the wall. So it's kind of like he was the only Flash, but Barry also kind of existed too. It was just really weird of how they had to deal with it, because DC was very uptight of like, well, this is New Earth, so everything has to be New Earth. Yeah.
I guess that makes sense, but I mean,
and that's the problem trying to make anything for DC, is like you have to deal with like whatever crazy thing they're trying to do at the time. I like New Earth because they were trying to do something, right? It's also what I grew up on. That's if you're talking about the current thing that was going on when I was growing up, it was New Earth. But most of my experience was reading old stuff. I didn't read new comics until later on. So going through the ages, I would personally be happy if we just rolled the clock back to maybe even 81, just so we still have like Teen Titans exists. But if we would go back to like 79, just go back before the 80s, and then just bring Teen Titans in fresh, and just get rid of everything that happened from the 80s on in DC and reset, I would be a happy camper. I think that would be great. Just through the 80s, try to do what you were doing with New Earth, and just go forward, and screw everything else that ever happened.
So Wally West was the Flash in Justice League Unlimited, but Barry Allen was the Flash in Justice League cartoon. Definitely.
I don't remember. It's been a while since I watched
it.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I watched random episodes of Unlimited more recently than... I only remember Wally West being in it, but it could be. I just don't remember the original.
No, I remember scenes with Barry Allen, definitely, from the first Justice League cartoon, the one before Unlimited. But I think you're right; they did switch it over. But also, they didn't have what's his name? They had Jon Stewart as the
Green Lantern.
Green Lantern.
Yeah,
which I think they had him in both.
Yeah, which he was like
iterations.
the current used Green Lantern at the time that they started production. Like he was the one. If you were to buy a Green Lantern comic, it's not that like Hal Jordan wasn't still around doing things or whatever. It's just he was the star of the Green Lantern comic.
Yeah, which is interesting because like I remember growing up, it was always Hal Jordan, but frankly, Jon Stewart was so cool, and I loved him in the.
I think they also
he was awesome.
Doubled down on picking him is because of diversity points. Like they needed a black character on the show, which it's like it's fine. It would have been literally just mostly aliens, actually, more than anything else, or like it's like an alien, a god. There was very few normal people, and the Green Lantern is technically one of the normal people who was just given a ring. It's like, okay, sure, bring in the Black Green Lantern. I'm not going to complain. He was a good character.
Yeah. I do like how they weren't afraid to bring back Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
Here and there for different movies and the CW series.
Well, you want some good news about DC? I actually have something pulled up involving comics because apparently they're learning, finally, at least on one regard. And DC is putting out a new set of what they call pocketable graphic novels that are only $10 each, right? And they're a good size. They're going to be 5.5 by 8.5 paperbacks, and they're all older stories, things that you probably should read. Most of them are good stories. So the first two that are going to come out are June 4th is Batman: The Court of Owls and Watchmen are going to get these pocket-sized graphic novels. Then July 2nd is All-Star Superman and Far Sector, which you can make some debates on whether All-Star Superman is good or not, but it's something that's recognizable. August 6th is going to have Batman Hush and Wonder Woman Earth 1. September 3rd, Harley Quinn and the Gotham City Sirens. I'm not a fan of it, but a lot of people like it. And Joker. And October 1st is going to be American Vampire Book 1 and Catwoman Trail of the Catwoman. Now, the thing about putting all these older recognizable stories is it's a jumping point. It's something somebody can go on. A lot of these you can ignore kind of what was going on in other comics at the side. They're mostly like standalone stories. Some of them are effectively like Elseworld stories or pocket stories that are just self-contained. And you can just pick them up. They're good for a road trip, and they're $10. Basically, what they're doing with these is they're making a tankobon. They're looking at the manga industry and be like, hey, how can we actually get the sales that manga does? Let's go with our more recognizable stories, and we'll make something that's roughly the size for roughly the same cost. Because looking at 5.5 by 8.5, it's between these two sizes.
So it's exactly half.
Right.
It's half of a normal sheet.
Somewhat, yeah, right. So you have this, because 8.5 by 11, it's half if you cut it in half. This is 6x9, and this is normal manga size, which is about 5x7. I think, yeah. So it's like right in between these two sizes, which is a fine size. A tankobon would be this size, but about this thick, right? So they're trying to be competitive. They're looking at what people are actually buying, and they're trying to sell that to people. And I agree with them going to their older stuff. Watchmen's a good one. I don't agree with necessarily their picks to start off. There are some other volume-sized graphic novels or stuff that I probably would have said first.
But like, the question is, what's the content here? Because, okay, there's All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison. That's probably going to be pretty good, I imagine. Then there's this Far Sector. I guess that's about Jessica Cruz. Some Green Lantern with an afro by Jamal Campbell. And then Scott Snyder's Batman. Jesus Christ.
Goodnight Spoon actually has some tidbits about the previous thing with Jon Stewart. He says it's likely because of rights or clearance issue. Kyle and Hal were established characters that the writers really couldn't deviate from, whereas they were allowed to basically do whatever they wanted with John. And he said there's some behind-the-scenes commentary tracks where they talk about how often they had to make knockoff versions of their own characters because they weren't allowed to portray the originals. That's interesting. And Fizz thinks it might be Bendis's Black Girl Green Lantern. Oh, you mean, what was her name? Like, was it like Hope or something? I couldn't remember. It was like he made a Green Lantern that wasn't a Green Lantern, really. He basically just remade Riri Williams as a Green Lantern.
Oh, Sojourner Joe Moline?
Or something like that. Yeah, I don't remember her name, but Bendis
If
came
you
in,
can't
he just
pronounce the name.
remade a character, basically. It's like, oh, I'm not working at Marvel anymore. Let me just use the same character in a different way.
Oh, that's gonna be awful. The author is N.K. Jemisin, who has never written a comic book before.
Yeah.
Why do they give these premiere? It's awful.
Yeah, it's like
you used to have to work your way up to a Green Lantern comic, right?
Yeah.
Or
So what you would normally do is they'd have somebody started off on B stories for the Justice League, right? Because nobody really cares about what the Justice League is doing on their off time, so that's like where you get your chops. And then you might get like a flagship title or something like that.
Yeah. Question is, does she have a Twitter account? Because I bet she's a not nice person.
Or later on, after like later iterations, they would put you on like an off story for the Teen Titans because people cared even less. Teen Titans is like one of the most canceled DC books that they keep rebooting because everybody likes the idea of Teen Titans, but outside of the original, not the original Teen Titans, but the original run of the new Teen Titans, there really hasn't been a good run of Teen Titans. It's also why they were allowed to do whatever they wanted to do with the new Teen Titans, because there hasn't really been a good run of the Teen Titans.
Oh, she won the Hugo Award many years up until 2022. So
that's actually one I think they should do a pocket size, like a tankobon for their graphic novels. They should just take volume 1 of the new Teen Titans, like that original run, and just put that, because that would sell like crazy, right? Especially for people who maybe watched the cartoon back when I was young, or even just young kids. They would love the idea of the Teen Titans, right? And just throw that on the shelves. People would buy it. $10 for that? Sure. The Trigon arc?
And there's, of course, a Harley Quinn one written by Paul Dini. You know who that is?
Not off the top of my head.
Oh, It's a Batman the Animated Series writer.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I think he's probably done something before. Because there was some spin-off or side comics for Batman the Animated Series, and there was even one about like Harley Quinn's origin, and he was probably the one who wrote that too. I would actually prefer the people who worked on the original version of Harley Quinn to be writing Harley Quinn. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually,
I think his version of Harley
see.
Quinn actually had her like blowing her way through school to getting her degree.
Entertainment Weekly did an interview with him, and he says they're asking about how her character first came about, and I guess he's the one who came up with her.
Yeah.
He said the idea occurred to me. Let's put in a female hench person. I was thinking of the female henchwomen they had in the 60s Adam West series. Interesting.
The original version of Harley Quinn does kind of feel like you could have just dropped her in an older version of Batman.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the things they were trying to do with Batman the Animated Series is they were trying to capture the totality of Batman, right? Like an errorless version of him, which I think they did a really good job. Because it wasn't hokey and over the top, but it was still fun. Especially you got to use the villains to be a little more fun, and Batman himself was a bit more serious. But it's not like he was without a sense of humor, and he was a very caring person. And you could kind of take the Tim version of Bruce and just drop him in any version of Batman, and he would kind of work.
Yeah. So yeah, some of these look like they're going to be decent. I mean, this one, obviously a Harley Quinn graphic novel written by the guy who invented Harley Quinn. Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, the version of
I don't know
Harley
about
Quinn that
Scott
everybody
Snyder.
actually liked.
Yeah, and it looks like her, and the Catwoman looks hot. Jeez, nice. Okay. Yeah, maybe they're learning. Of course, they have to stick that one in by the novelist who's never written a comic book before, but whatever.
What I think, and somebody who is in our general circles, God, what's his name? Draw and Talk. I think Tyler. You know what I'm talking about? He makes the he makes comics himself. Yeah. He knows a lot about marketing. He works in the publishing industry. And he's been talking about, and I agree, I completely agree with this, abandon the floppy, really, as a physical format.
Yeah.
It's not really selling. You don't have to abandon it as a concept, but it shouldn't, the floppies aren't selling on their own. Go digital first for floppies, and then sell the trade paperbacks, right? And you can even do this like pocket-sized form that are cheap. It's just not selling.
Yeah.
People aren't buying them.
I tend to agree. It's like, it was good for whatever 80 years or whatever, but now I really don't want a shelf full of, how long were they usually? 20 pages, 22? Or
yeah,
something?
on average, like they used to be longer. They used to be like 32, but then 32 started becoming the giant size, right?
Yeah.
And then I think on average, they were 24 to 28 for the longest time. But over time, they started filling more of the pages with ads, and you'd be lucky if you got 20 pages of actual content. I think some of them get away with like 18 plus ads now.
I mean, it's hard to... there was some news about how the head of Marvel was saying he wants to figure out how to get people into comic book shops on every Wednesday again, and it's like I think that era is over. Like, it didn't have to be that. Like, they might have been able to continue that if they hadn't completely shifted the industry like 20 years ago. Yeah, but they did, and now I'm afraid it's just over. I don't think anything could bring it back.
They really now need to look at what works, right? So the thing that works,
I'd rather
look at Shonen Jump, right? The manga industry works. They have a big magazine that has all the stuff they sell on a rotation, right? So they'll put out like 4 a week or 4 a month, 4 weekly ones. They will rotate what's in it, so they'll have like ABCs and stuff like that. They'll have a big story each week that sells all the smaller stories. If DC put out like a DC Weekly that had the chapters that would later become the trade paperbacks, and everything else was just like, you want to buy an issue, you get it digitally. Because the audience, you have to look at where young people are. Are you going to lose the older audience if you don't have a physical version of the floppy? Maybe, right? But we have to look at what older audience is that. That's people who are even older than you that would refuse to buy the digital, right? We're talking like people in their 50s or higher than there's a lot of people like, I won't buy it. Like, I've seen them on, they're mostly Twitter people, but I've seen them. And they're just like, I won't buy it.
It's not that I go around saying I won't buy it. I just don't buy it. I just don't.
Yeah. I'm talking about
that I won't. It's just
you would probably buy them digitally, like especially if they gave you a subscription service. If you wanted to read it first, maybe. I'm just going out there.
I don't read anything.
If they were
don't
good.
like reading
Let's
digital
just assume
things.
they were good, right?
I used to when I was younger. Now, if I read a book, I want to have a physical book. I don't know.
Okay. So you'd be one of the people that would only get the graphic novel afterwards, the tankobon, right?
Yeah, I would. I'd love that. Yeah.
So that's what's going to happen.
Okay.
But the thing is, the people that they'd be losing the floppies on anyway aren't buying the floppies, regardless. Even the stuff that is good, right? They're just not even buying the good stuff, right?
Yeah.
The younger people are reading digital comics. They don't even want to go to a comic store. They don't even want to buy a physical comic. It was the point I was trying to get at originally. And you have to look at like the people who are actually buying the comics, right? Or trying to. There are people who will spend subscriptions on webtoon services, but they won't go and buy a floppy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to sell it, you need an app. There, people buy the membership to the Shonen Jump app where you pay like $3 a month and you have access to their entire catalog. People would do that for DC if they were selling good comics. But like, you have to look, even if they were selling good comics, people still wouldn't be buying the floppies because people aren't buying the good ones.
Yeah.
So digital first, graphic novel
You're
later.
probably right. Mm-hmm. You're probably right. Yeah, I think you're right because like people my age, hate to say it, and older, just aren't going to do the digital thing, but younger people will, and so appeal to them and then put it together. Because I don't want a big old long box full. I don't want a shelf full of these tiny little things anymore. I mean, unless they're classics,
either, right? Because you have to. It's all just spines. There's nothing that looks good, and a bunch of them together will look like a book, but you can't tell what you're pulling out. While you get a nice design spine that's got the title on it and maybe the volume number or whatever when you have a graphic novel, and if you want to read it, you can easily find where it is on the shelf, pull it out. It looks great.
Yeah,
Floppies
I almost
never look
like
good for display unless you have like a comic shop wall or something.
Yeah, I'm tempted. I've been tempted to get like a spinner rack because I'm like, I've got all these books and I can't even see what they are, and they're just you can't see. It's just a bunch of books with they look too thin. and those are mostly like comic skate books, which are typically quite a bit longer. I mean, I don't know if I have a book that's shorter than 40 pages. Maybe I've got one that's.
But even most of them still don't look good on a shelf, right? Like,
I
love the Buckler, right? We both helped work on the Buckler, right, from an editorial perspective. But
I'd rather
the Buckler,
see the front.
Yeah, you want to see the front. It's such a good cover, but that means you have to like take it out and put it like you put a portrait on a shelf or something, right? It doesn't look good, and that's just the nature of thin-spined books. I think the only one I own that even I think has a very small spine is just how they decided to do Florida Man. But I think Florida Man is still stapled. I think it might even still be stapled. I'd have to pull it out. It doesn't even look good on a shelf. None of them look good on a shelf.
I will say that the what was it called? Your boy Zach's comic. Why can't I think of it?
Which one? He's
Completely
got multiple.
blanking on everything.
There's
his original
Iron
one.
Sights. There's
Jawbreakers.
Jawbreakers. Yeah, that was the other one.
Jawbreakers has a nice looking spine.
Hmm.
It's thick enough, and he's got
That
the
he
writing.
actually
it's
has a
flat.
square bound spine. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you put them side by side, they all look nice.
Mhm.
They're kind of like, like the old Nintendo powers next to each other, where you can actually see what it is from the side.
Well, I'm working on a comic. It's gonna be black and white graphic novel style with an artist right now, and for each of the chapters, we're doing digital first. Right, we're gonna primarily. I might find some other places to sell it, or like PDFs directly to people. I might list it on my site. People can PayPal me, and I can send them the PDF. But primarily, we're gonna be putting it up on Global Comics, so you can just buy it there. Excellent comic reader. If you people are interested in digital comics, Global Comics seems to be a really good place to buy from. You can read it through their comic reader, but also if the site ever shuts down, you don't have to worry about it. They sell you PDFs, so you can just keep it in your hard drive, right? But we're going to put it digital first there, chapter by chapter. People can buy it and read it there. And then after I have a volume's worth of it, then I'll do a print run of it where people can buy like a tankobon trade paperback style of the book.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Is it a Haramanga?
It is not the Haramanga. No. In fact, the genre of it is going to be... Technically, it's an isekai. But it is in the same way that, like, Digimon or Persona is. Which, I think I mentioned this, too, when I was going through my whole thing. I watched Digimon and then Persona 4, the animation, basically back to back. And I was like, oh my god, how did I never notice that Digimon and Persona are in the exact same subgenre as each other until just now? But it's in that subgenre. It's going to take place in the dreamscape. I'll talk more about it once we actually have some stuff to show. I was actually in a call with the artist last night working on it. Tuesdays is when we do it, but I had extra time in the middle of the night, so we were talking.
All that
It'll be
time
fun.
when you're not playing Ever Crisis. Dang it.
Well, I won't. I mean, I might try to get my account linked up again today, but I won't be playing it during the morning stream. I was thinking for the Tuesday morning stream, I'm actually going to start Bloodstained. I was going to try to do it sometime during the weekend.
Well, that's a good idea.
I was just busy and never got around to it. But yeah, like early morning tomorrow, I will probably be starting up a run of Bloodstained on this exact channel.
Cool.
Yeah.
From the beginning?
Yeah, from the beginning. Well, I mean, I have to anyway because I'm going to be doing the Steam version.
Do you in the Steam version? I don't remember when they added that. Did you get that Shantae outfit from the very beginning?
Yeah. When I booted up, it showed all the DLC and downloadable stuff. So.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Fizz, that's a crazy idea. That could be great for them specifically if your thing was successful, but it's a big risk. He says, I'm trying to find an artist who is willing to work in exchange for the merchandising rights of some of my characters. Right? Trying to like reverse George Lucas in a way, right? And it's like, well, that could be great, but that also means that they're banking on this thing being massively successful for merchandising rights to really do.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm just going with splitting the rights of the sales of the specific book that the person is working on, like indefinitely.
Yeah. I think Goodnight Spoon has a good suggestion. You might want to consider offering them money instead.
Yeah. Because I'm doing this with an artist where we both kind of have the free time to work on this, and it's like, yeah. And I'm also doing a lot of the art too. I'm just not doing the interiors, right? Like I'm not doing the paneling or any of that art, but I'm sitting here, I'm doing the character designs. I'm going to be doing all of the lettering and stuff like that. I'm even making some of the layouts for the script I'm writing. I'm working on this book just as much as the artist. It's a somewhat of a joint venture, and it's like, yeah, no, whatever we sell, especially it's going digital, so it's not coming out of too much of our pockets, just our free time. You just get half of it. So, the better the sell, the better the both of us do.
Yeah. I doubt that you're kidding. I don't think that you were kidding, but
No, well,
I
it's just
mean,
not. It's kind of a raw deal for an artist, you know.
you're kind
At
of
least
kind
if
of
it's,
getting ahead of. Go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh, I was saying because you're not even same thing you're saying, right? You're getting ahead of yourself. You haven't even gotten a comic out to literally sell the comic, and you have to do multiple comics to be
Yeah,
able to get merchandising. So how long until they even see any
Yeah.
money of it?
I would see if you can scrounge together enough to get some basic, intro art and crowdfund
Yeah.
it. That's
Because like the way I work is like, well, I also don't care if the artists who worked on the book wanted to sell their own merchandise to the characters. Like I'm not even ask for a cut of their art, right? If they basically just want to do what is the equivalent of professional fan art. I'm the guy who worked on this book, but this is just my art and sell it. Like I don't give a shit. They can make all the money they want. I'm not even going to say it's merchandising rights. They worked on the book. I don't care, right?
Yeah.
But they're also getting a cut of the book, right? So that like giving them merchandising rights isn't even something that registers in this situation. They by default have it.
Oh, you know what I didn't realize is that these. Sorry, going back to that previous topic. These aren't all new. Okay, so that's why
a lot of
I
them
was
are
like,
old. Like All-Star Superman's a
Yeah, I was
pretty old
like-
story. Court of Owls is old too.
yeah, I thought that. Yeah, okay, never mind.
Which is why I said
That's
this is a good start, because you want to sell some of the stories that people are
Yeah.
familiar with or have already proven to be good. So if you're getting the new
was
audience,
like-
it's like you're giving them something good at least.
Yeah, I was like, is Grant Morrison still alive?
I have no
Or-
clue. I've not looked into
'Cause
that in a while.
For some reason, I was like, oh, Grant Morrison wrote a new All-Star Superman? That's cool. No, they're selling the old one. Okay, now I get it.
Yeah, is there even a character design / model sheet? If no, it's the artist design. I agree with that. I do model sheets for all of my characters, but in the case of like say Fizz shows or whatever, it's like if you don't even have like a model sheet or whatever, you're literally just relying on the artist's design.
Yeah. So wait, this
But I'm also an
Gotham
artist, so
Police-
you expect, even if I'm working with another artist, for me to put out at least like a character sheet for them. That'd be kind of weird if I didn't.
God, I want to redo that whole segment because, of course the Harley Quinn one looks good because it was written 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's his
not
original
a new
version
one.
of it. Yeah.
Oh, why didn't you tell me to shut up?
Well, I did.
was
You
like,
must have missed it
oh.
when I said it. I said that a lot of them were older when I introed the section. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, a new Harley Quinn movie, book written by Paul Dini. That's cool. No, it's not a new one. Stupid me.
I would like him to do a new one. Please, for the love of God. If
I
this
know,
sells
I
too,
was,
bring
like,
him back. Have him do
excited.
a new one.
I was more excited about this, but I'm like, oh wait, they're doing Watchmen too. Oh, the
Gotham
original.
City Sirens is a pretty old one. Yeah.
It's just that they didn't. Yeah, they called it Harley Quinn and the Gotham City Sirens. I thought it was a brand new story, but no, it's just a collection. All right. Well, I don't know if they. I mean, okay. So they're selling a bunch of old books, and the new ones look terrible. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess my
it would be
original
good
points-
if these sell really well. It would be a good chance for them to try to take a step back and reset their direction for everything else.
Mhm. To make one of them a green kangaroo. Sure.
Well, I mean, we could put a green kangaroo in the story I'm making because it takes place in dreams. So there's no reason a green kangaroo couldn't show up as like a cameo appearance in there. Unless it's also on the cover, though, there's no way you could tell it's green because it's a black and white book.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, the character could say the kangaroo's green. That's kind of weird. But unless like you could work it in naturally, I wouldn't do that because that would be a weird thing for somebody to randomly say, especially if they're already in a dream world. You expect weird things to be jumping around.
Hey, you could do it all with AI. I hear that people love that.
Yeah.
Ah, jeez. Can we talk about a subject I actually know something about?
Yes. What do you know about?
Apparently, I know nothing about comics, so I'm not ashamed. Did you see the new Delicious in Dungeon?
I did see it. Yes, it was the episode about that was called forget which word came first. It was either hag/nightmare or nightmare/hag, but which
There's Hag Nightmare.
yeah, which hag is like a translation of the word for nightmare in Japanese, because the most common Japanese nightmare is being chased by an old hag, right? Like a witch type lady, which wasn't involved in this one so much. But yeah, it was pretty fun. Do you want to set up the episode, or do you want me to?
You can.
Okay.
I just want. I wanted to start by just saying this is the episode that furries are gonna like.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So in this episode of Dungeon Meal, what happened was they were already progressing down through the dungeon last time in that cold section, but basically immediately after they handled the kind of shapeshifter thing, they had noticed there was something else around, and from out of the shadows, they were attacked. We pick back up with that. The person who attacked last time was one of Shiro, their old party members, like handlers, servants, the people who came with him, one of his party members. And it was this ninja chick who takes Marcel because she knows black magics and wants her to fix the problem. As the ninja chick takes off her mask, you find out that she's been cursed to be like a half beastman, very cat-like. She's a cat girl. They literally just they have a cat girl in there. Which actually no, there was a hag in there too. I almost forgot about that. Out from the back of her neck, there was a curse where a hag comes out and they have to get rid of it, which looks like what most people have nightmares of in Japan. Like that is basically what should have been in the nightmare if it was a standard Japanese nightmare, as a hag.
I didn't realize that's where she came from, because I must have looked away and
neck. That, obviously,
because it seemed random.
Yeah. It was the girl in white who was with them, the leader of the kind of troop of people that follow Shiro, placed a curse on her, probably to keep her in check, right? Like because you're a servant, right? And apparently, if she touches it every so often, but she doesn't know what the actual limit on it is, like how often the other person needs to touch it, it keeps the curse from activating. And she didn't even know what the curse was. That time elapsed, and a hag came out from the curse and tried to kill her, right? Yeah. In which they ended up burning the hag. She was made of paper, like a lot of Japanese yokai are, just happen to be made of other objects. After they handle this, I think the true thing happened at the end, but they kind of sort of invite the cat girl to journey with them, because it's like it's going to be difficult to get out of the dungeon, and maybe if we find the
They tell her that they can't really undo the curse. They don't. She just doesn't know how. Yeah,
at least as of the knowledge of mages of this era, even going on ancient magic, they don't know how to separate a soul once they've been put into the same container. But the mad mage might, because he's an even older person that practices ancient magics and was contemporary to the time that those magics were made, right? So if anybody could, it might be that mage. So if they journey with them, if she journeys with them, then she might have a chance of figuring out a way of breaking the curse. And then Marcel falls asleep.
And but then they decide to make a meal for her, at least while they're talking, sort of to calm her down, I guess. And there was a humorous, what's the dwarf's name again?
Senshi.
Senshi gets very upset by the way she holds her spoon.
Yeah. But even that happened before the hag attacked, right? Because they started...
he starts to talk about it.
Giving her food while Marcel's trying to figure out what the thing is. And it's during all of that ruckus that she moved, and then like the hag came out. And what are we talking about? Delicious in Dungeon, or Dungeon Meshi.
It's a show on Netflix that we've been talking about
keeping up with. Yeah.
But it was funny how he applied it to the knife that the hag was wielding, saying how she wasn't, she wasn't holding it correctly, and it was flimsy. So he
and everybody was
took
already
advantage
freaking
of it.
out that she had no table manners
Yeah.
because they knew that Senshi was gonna kind of like blow up on her. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
no, she doesn't have table manners.
Yeah, but he uses the knowledge to deflect, or actually end up breaking the knife of the hag that comes after.
Yeah. But then the latter half of the episode takes
Anyway.
place in Marcel's dream. She's been so tired from everything that's been going on that she kind of just passes out, but she starts to have a nightmare. Which it turns out the nightmare is an actual monster later on. But because she's having a nightmare, Laios has to think about, like, okay, when Chiro had a nightmare, what did my sister do to solve the problem? Okay, I had to put my head on the person's, like, torso, like on their stomach, and go to sleep so I can fall into their dream. And he went in, and it turns out that she has this fear, probably being an elf, but, I mean, elves can't die, they just live for a long time, that she's going to outlive every person that she knows. Everybody's going to die on her.
Yeah, just like Furin.
Yeah. And in this case, specifically, Fallon was probably the thing that stirred this nightmare back up. Laios goes in there and he starts aging rapidly after being touched by the creature. The creature itself, it seems to be a representation for death, but it seems to be the representation of, like, disease and old age, the things that end up taking you.
Mm-hmm.
And they eventually solve it because the thing that she really wants, the thing that might be able to fix her problems, is that book that the Mad Mage has. And if she could get that book, she might be able to actually be competent enough in magic to not worry anymore. And she pulls a copy of the book out of thin air because it's a dream.
Mm-hmm.
Smacks the monster. He's like, is that even how you're supposed to use it? And everybody wakes up. And her memory of the dream even turned into a positive experience of her running around with a dog, which is Laios is the dog, with her doll of Fallon, having a good time. And the actual meal of the episode were the nightmares, which turns to be related to dragons, but these little mollusk-like clam mussel things that crawl into your pillowcase and give you bad dreams. They feed off of your nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll tell you what Metal told John Dillard was that if you have access to it, just watch the first 3 episodes. You should know within the first 3 or so if you're gonna like it, because it's a little odd. It's kind of funny because, like, every episode they have a new recipe.
Yeah, and the jokes,
cook a monster.
I wouldn't say that they're repetitive, but the jokes rhyme is a good way of putting it, where a lot of the jokes are really just new ways of doing the same jokes. Where we are, it's gotten a little more creative, just here and there. But for definitely the first half of the season, a lot of the jokes were just like, oh, Marcel's grossed out about this thing, or we treat the half-foot like he is a kid, or it's like it's the same joke over and over, just in different ways. And I find them funny, but for somebody like Dillard, it was tiring to him. So it'll be, it's a niche audience type show.
Yeah, they're a bit self-aware, because in that last episode with the doppelgangers, they talked about how Marcel never likes any meal, or doesn't think she's gonna like it.
She never quite gets used to it. So that's even how his gut instinct kind of called out one of the other ones, because she just wasn't as grossed out.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting. I mean, I'm actually more interested now that, the overall story has really progressed. Like, most of the first half of the first season was just kind of individual standalone episodes where they come up against a new creature and they end up feeding it in some unique way, and then they cook it.
That's like the big draw to the show, is like, what is the meal of this episode?
Yeah, but near the end of the first half, they finally catch up to what they're trying to do, which is to save this guy's sister. And
it's totally just like a D&D campaign, right? Like, that's the way you can look at it. It's a genre of shows, and the twist is that there is a meal every session of the campaign, right?
Yeah.
Amazing Digital Circus. I don't know if you've watched that. Have you?
I've not.
Okay, so you haven't
No.
even seen the pilot. The first like real episode came out like episode 2 after the pilot. Um, if you want, we could talk about that next week because there won't be a new episode for a while. It's a indie animated series on that they put up on YouTube, so it takes quite a while between episodes for them to put up a new thing. I'm caught up on it, and I assumed we wouldn't be talking about it because you wouldn't have watched it, but we could. Especially if the few regular people that we have watching this want to, we can end up talking about it.
I've never even heard of it. It's interesting.
Yeah, it actually, I'm more into 2D animation in general. I think on average, if you have a competent person working on it, 2D animation is just more competent and more dynamic than 3D. But this series does have one of my favorite 3D animators working on it, which is trying to remember his name, Kevin Temmer, or is it Tremor? I can never remember his name. I think it's Temmer. He does like a lot of stuff on, or at least do stuff on Newgrounds that I watch, but I think he deleted his Newgrounds after working on the Amazing Digital Circus. But it's also made by Glitch, and
there's only 2 episodes.
yeah, it's only 2 episodes. The second episode just recently came out, like within like the last week. Yeah, but the reason I'm fine with it is because it's very dynamic. It's very rubber hose. He's willing to break his models all the time, which is why it's fun. A lot of controversy around it too, because apparently a lot of people watched it, didn't pay attention to what was going on in the first episode and thought this series was going to go in a very different direction instead of really leaning into the almost Looney Tunes nature of the show. So I don't know. I kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah, these creatures are really strange looking.
Yeah. The basic premise of it is that Pomni, the main character, the little jester-looking girl, it's an isekai, got sucked into a video game, basically like a computer 90s style like children's game, maybe point and click, where you have to like click on the events and there might be mini games and stuff there. She's living in this amazing digital circus now. All the other main characters, except for Kane, who is the guy with the teeth, or it is just teeth. He's like a set of dentures, probably named after Novocaine. Spoiler? I don't know if anything I'm saying is necessarily spoilers, except I guess if you haven't seen it at all. But the premise, I have to tell you the premise at least, right? And the premise is that you got isekai. I'm not going to talk about anything else. You could watch it to find out. Until you've seen it, then we can talk about it. But he's like this AI that is part of the game that runs it, and everybody else in there is also people who've previously been sucked into this game. And now, to keep them from going insane, the AI gives them adventures to do every day. So that's kind of the premise of the show, is they're just going to be on wacky Looney Tune adventures as maybe they uncover the plot of why they're stuck in this video game, or even how, or whatever, you know. So that's going to be a backdrop thing, right? Like the whole, we're inside a game.
Yeah.
Was it revealed that she's inside of a game? Yeah. Like in the first episode. Or at least something akin to a game. Yeah.
Looks like the pilot came out 7 months ago.
Yeah. It's fairly old at this point, but it takes a while to get these things rolling. I think the next episodes are going to come out faster. Probably at the pacing of their old show that's still going on, Murder Drones, which is pretty good too. I actually think Murder Drones is a better show.
Oh, that was okay. Yeah, Murder Drones. Episode 6. Okay.
But you know, it's an independent thing, so it takes a while for these episodes to come out. They don't have like the huge budget that a studio has and deadlines that they have to meet, or else the show gets dropped.
Is Glitch Productions a company?
It is a YouTube channel. I'm assuming at this point, with the money that they're getting and the stuff that they're making, they're at least a small indie production.
Yeah, they have merchandising.
Yeah. Oh, if you want to make money on the internet, you have to have merchandising, right?
Yeah.
Even all these people are like, yeah, over the last several months, I made $1 million in ads, like the biggest people. It's like, sure, but that's not the bulk of your income. The bulk of your income is your merch and stuff that you sell to people, or your sponsors. Like if you get sponsorships directly, that's way more than ads.
Of course, keep in mind the pilot for the Amazing Digital Circus has 318 million views.
Oh yeah, it was massively popular.
I've never even heard of this. Crazy.
Well, if you paid attention to the Cult of Raven Discord, you would have seen that Joshua Hughes has posted both episodes when they were new.
Yeah. How did he find it?
Because it was on the internet and it was massively popular, and we're the type of people that watch animation on the internet.
I guess.
Usually, I don't feel the need to be the one that posts the stuff in there because Joshua also really likes internet animation and is always posting things.
Was it like talked about on Newgrounds or something? How does something like this get out there? A lot of the Newgrounds people I know talked about it, but it wasn't on there. In fact, I think it's probably because like the creators of it don't like Newgrounds due to the reputation. Except for obviously Kevin, he likes it. But what's the reputation?
Newgrounds has a pretty awful reputation, sadly. And it's probably just
There's a new picture of Shantae in her gold swimsuit on Newgrounds right now.
Oh yeah. It's probably by Bacon.
It is by Bacon.
Yeah. He's a buddy of mine actually. But he's always drawing Shantae. That's one of the characters he draws a lot.
Wow.
One of the things Bacon and I have in common, we both like Shantae and Ranma.
So like, yeah, I just, we don't need to get into it now. We're kind of at the end here, but I mean, how does something like this, like I feel like if I posted something like this, I mean, obviously, yeah, a lot of work went into this, but like, I guess it looks like it's on a channel that already had some other stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess it already had a big.
Yeah, following. No, but it was like in the zeitgeist at the time. We just weren't really talking about it.
They already have 10 million subscribers.
Like I'm face palming as hard as I can right now. My face has been absorbed by my palm. Why are you face palming? You can let us know.
Good question. Yeah, I guess it looks like they've been doing stuff for 3 years.
Yeah, no. So the reputation for Newgrounds is the type of people that are on it, but also that it. Most people just know Newgrounds is the place you go to get porn, right? Like 2D animated porn. Like there's a lot of nudity and fucking on there, and a lot of games. There's also an older reputation that
I must be in the wrong area, or the right area.
Yeah, well, you can also toggle off seeing adult-only content as well, so you don't ever even have to really see the porn. But also just like the older days of Newgrounds, it's where a bunch of like the edgelords would be. A bunch of like jokingly, intentionally racist stuff or killing people. Heck, every time there was a new president, there was some game about you killing the current president in whatever way you want. Like they'll just give you bombs, grenades, flamethrowers, whatever you want to do. That's just the type of place that it was. A lot of that stuff is still kind of there, but really, you have to go out of your way to look for that stuff now too. Because the front page is all curated.
Yeah.
Except for the porn, you can still easily find porn on the front page, on the side panel, if you don't have the mature stuff turned off. Almost on the newest animation and section, it's almost always going to be some M-rated stuff if you don't have it turned off. But like all like the curated animation, curated games, and curated pictures, they don't ever put like M stuff on there, I think. No, M stuff can be on there. It's the adult-only stuff that never goes on there. And even the M stuff, the thumbnail has to be cropped to where you can't see anything.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a fun place. It's a very good place for creativity, especially if you're trying to make it as a cartoon. Putting it there and YouTube or there first, you can get a much better kickstart on Newgrounds than you can on YouTube, unless you're already established or have some people that can like immediately retweet you or something. I think it's the better place to grow for animation and indie games, like small games. But a lot of people just don't like the old reputation that Newgrounds has.
Alrighty.
Yep. I think that's it for the show.
I kind of answered my own question with this channel. That just they've been. You always see the culmination and think, oh, how did they become an overnight success? Well, apparently they've been working on it for 3 years. And their early stuff didn't get very many views. So, cool.
Oh, he was facepalming at the merchandising rights comment that Fizz Jozo had made. And it was already off my screen by the time he said that. I agree with you. I definitely agree. But yeah, that's it for the show. How's the core Discord looking these days? Barely active, but still lively enough. You know, people post things. We interact. It's the regulars. It's just the regulars. But thank you all for watching. Yeah. If you enjoyed the show, please share it out with somebody. Anybody. It only has to be one person. It really helps us out. If you really enjoyed it, consider giving a donation to streamlabs.com/vomitoriumlive. You can even leave a message. If it's after the show, I will read it on the next episode. And, you know, we'll see you guys. Well, I'll see you this morning. I'm probably going to play Bloodstained in the next morning. But we'll definitely see you no matter what on Thursday.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I will see you there too. Bye. Bye for now.